The first Hudson River Derby match of the 2020 season was scheduled for Sunday, May 31st. So we don't have that game, but we have a chance to relive at least a portion of the Hudson River Derby with a former New York City FC player and now a first-team assistant coach, Mehdi Ballouchy. Mehdi, how are you?
Good, Glenn. How you been?
I'm okay. We're going to get into some of whatever's going on with individual training in a minute, but I want to tell everyone just as a reminder, 11-year MLS career, 217 career matches. You attended American universities at Creighton and Santa Clara after moving from Morocco at the age of 16. That is quite a time in a young person's life to kind of move up or move from your country and then into this, what had to be some strange surroundings and leaving friends and family. And tell me a little bit, relive some of those moments, how that was for you, trying to acclimate when you came over.
It was tough. It was, I was trying to adapt as best as I could, as I could. That was a time in my life where I was in between the decision of trying to go to Europe and join one of those academies and try to make it that way, or try to get some type of scholarship and come to the States where I could, play and still go to school. My parents always wanted me to do, keep going to school and keep trying to do, try to get to a university. And that was why I ended up in the States. I think going to Europe, they almost don't have a backup plan if that doesn't work out. So that's why, I was trying to get myself into a college and try to get a scholarship to be able to go to school here.
So that worked out pretty well because it helped you become a professional. Sometimes there's different aspects of the college game. People talk about college and how it prepares you maybe for the professional level. That was years ago, but still it worked for you.
It definitely did. I think there's a give and take with everything, and I can't complain with the way it turns out.
You started with RSL, Real Salt Lake, and this is the mid 2000s. And if I have this right, you played with and then were managed by Jason Kreis, right?
I did, yeah. So my first coach was John Ellinger. He had taken the franchise a year before, and then Jason, was part of that team for a few years, and then eventually the coaching change was made, and he took over. Jason took over, and I played under him in Salt Lake for a year and a half, a year, yeah.
So it was kind of ironic. Well, maybe not so. He probably played a role in you coming to New York City FC in the expansion year 2015, his first and only season. But so you guys were reunited. There must have been a mutual understanding there.
It did. I mean, to be honest, I wasn't really so close with Jason, but I think at the end of that, try to maybe keep in touch. But we haven't really talked until we kind of got together again in New York, and I got a phone call I think the day before the expansion draft at the time, and they were like they asked if I was interested, and I was really interested, to come back to New York and be able to play here.
I'm curious. You were an academy coach for New York City FC with the 14s and the 15s. You mentioned John Ellinger. He's in Baltimore, right? As a director. So do you reconnect with him? Do you run into him every now and then?
I did. He actually was on, doing one of the courses, the coaching courses. He was ahead of the Bradenton coaching course. He wasn't actually an instructor, but he ran the whole thing, and I was able to. I love John. He's an amazing person in the game, so in this country, and it was nice to reconnect with him and kind of spend more time in that environment with him again.
All right. Well, I want to spend some time on your coaching, but let's go back to your playing when you arrive at New York City FC. And at the top of this, I talked about the Hudson River Derby, which, the first 6 you were involved with. You were part of the program. 1 win, 5 losses, outscored 18-5 by the Red Bulls. I'm just curious if you recovered for that, number one.
When you recover from your haircut, I recover from it.
Well, look, I'm teasing you, of course. It was
But
a
if you can
struggle.
take it back, then we're all game.
Well, that's right. That's right.
You can't just go one way, right?
Well, you let your wife go on your hair. I didn't permit that, so it's just long
Okay, fair
and
enough.
shaggy, and at some point somebody will chop it off. But those, I mean, there was a definite an excitement. I mean, for you, it was interesting too because you had spent 3 seasons with the Red Bulls, so you were a guy that was on both sides of it.
Yeah, no, I think it was great to see it from both sides. It wasn't so great for that first couple of years playing against Red Bull because it was obviously a team that was a little bit ahead in terms of quality, and I think it took us a little while to figure things out in the club in terms of success. And I think at different places there's different kinds of pressures on the coaching staff, on the sporting director to have different things on the field and even off the field. So in at NYCFC it took a couple of years, and it was difficult. It was difficult, but I think the good thing that came out of that rivalry is obviously the fan base won for both clubs, and then it made the two clubs become like one of forces in this league. So there's a reason they are where they are today.
If you look at it from a coaching standpoint, and I'm sure coaches, you're analyzing everything, you're trying to look at all the little details. What did you learn from that experience? You were playing, you weren't coaching, but what did you learn from that experience? There was a lot of adversity there, a lot of pressure. How could you counteract that if you go through it again as a coach, something like that?
It's hard. I think that's the one thing I think is an important piece with coaching. I think it's easy to say, oh, I could have done it this way or that way. The reality is we don't have all the info that the coaching staff did have back then. Do you know what I mean? So for me to say, oh, I could have done this or that, I think that would be just, I don't think that's fair to anyone. I think knowing, I think those questions will have to go to the coaches that were coaching at that time. What I could talk about is my side of it. And at the time I wasn't a coach, I was a player, I can tell you that. But I think from a coaching's perspective, it's difficult because I don't know who he's supposed to, what kind of, as I said, what kind of stuff that he had to deal with at the time.
Right. And, but you were observing things, right? And I'm sure you thought, we're not here to call out how things could have been done differently. Maybe that's not even my point on this. It's more like when you're thinking as a coach, were there things that you saw that would help you down the road yourself?
Yeah, no. I think my whole career, maybe like the second part of my career, which is like the last 5-6 years, I was really tuned in to what the coaching, to the coaching side of it. I think I was tuned into the tactics since I was a kid because I've always enjoyed that side of it. And also I think the cool part about this rivalry here in New York is you have two different styles, like totally different styles of play. And I think that's really, really cool. I'm not sure there are that many clubs in this league so far that could say, okay, we've played this way for this long. And I think Red Bulls could say that, and even New York City FC, it's a newer club, but we can say that as well. Do you know what I mean? So I think that side of it is really cool. I think for me, it's you have a team that presses, and puts a lot of energy into that game, to that side of it, and try to win the ball as high as possible, and turn the opposition's mistakes into chances. And then you got another team that wants to play out of the back and enjoys that side of it, and they're going to play out of the back, no matter what. Now, you can adjust to both, and whoever does it better wins the game. And that's why you get, you get the great rivalry that you have.
No,
Soccer-wise, soccer-wise and tactically,
yeah.
Great rivalry. Yeah.
No, that's the contrasting styles have always been interesting to analyze how to figure it out. And I remember Patrick Vieira, which was your second season and the second season of the franchise.
Yeah.
He had a way he wanted to play, but towards the end, he was even admitting that, in certain situations, maybe he was a little bit stubborn with the brand of soccer he wanted to try to play. Maybe he hadn't been around long enough to show show you exactly what he needed? Maybe he didn't have the proper personnel. I mean, these are the things that you talk about.
I think with Patrick and not only him, I think even Dome last year. I think everyone at New York City FC tried to play out of the back. Now Patrick, yeah, of course he was stubborn. I think all coaches are stubborn in the way they want to play. And I think
right.
that should be a requirement. It's not in a bad way. It's like I think you have to believe in what you believe in to be there. So I think with Patrick, it maybe, and I think this gets kind of confused sometimes. Is you can still play out of the back, but you can skip lines into different lines of play, and you can skip into the mid, you can skip even to the forward. You can see even the top teams that play out of the back still do that as well. So if you look at Man City, Barcelona, if you press them with 5-6 players, they're gonna skip lines into the 9 for a set to go. So it's not like he's gonna now all of a sudden change the way he plays, Patrick. It's just that he needed to maybe adjust to it, and I think he learned it.
We're with Mehdi Ballouchy, New York City FC first team assistant, 11 years as a player in MLS. Yeah, so that side of it. So now, time now maybe to ask about some of your coaching influences. I mean, when I look through your managers, and this isn't everyone, because back home, you may have also had influences, but in college, it was Cam Rast at Santa Clara. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right, yeah.
And then Fernando Clavijo, the late Fernando, Gary Smith at Colorado, Frank Yallop and Mark Watson, a couple of Canadians at San Jose, Carl Robinson, Vancouver. Then you had Kreis and Vieira at New York City FC. And like I said, maybe someone back home as well. So how have you been able to blend all those? Can you talk about some of the coaches that you've played under and how maybe they've impacted you as a coach?
Oh yeah, I think I could. You need a few hours for that, but I could try to sum it up to best I can. I think as I played, I always try to pick up like on what a coach does well and maybe not do so well, and I think try to add that to my coaching perspective now. And I think looking back, as you said, like these are some amazing coaches that had a lot of success in this league. And even internationally, some of them. I think if you look at, like if I had to sum it up, yeah, like if I could have Jason Kreis's intensity and work rate, I think Patrick's tactical side was really, really good. I think being able to solve problems. Dome, the way he was able to find solutions to win games within the game. I thought that was impressive. I think if you even go back and look at, the way Frank Yallop or Carl Robinson were close to the players and and in turn the players, they were like more players coaches, and then in turn maybe they're not, that tactically they were good, but that was not their strength. I think their strength was how do we get the group to gel and to want to fight for you, and they were amazing at that. And I think Yallop doesn't get enough credit for that, because I think every team that he's been at, he's won many places. I think that's the strength of his. I think even if you look now, I think Ronnie's leadership and I think you can have it all, but I think having leadership is probably the single most important thing in the game, as well as in terms of coaching. Right. But yeah, I could go on every one of them and try to give you their best piece that I would love to have, but I think it's a process that I'm just learning.
What are your strengths, Mehdi? And you mentioned Dome Torrent and Ronnie Dyla. Didn't mean to leave them out, but you didn't play for them. But you're working directly under Ronnie, and then as an academy coach with Dome. But what are your strengths? Do you think on the coaching side, and where do you think you need a little tweaking along the way?
I think some of the stuff that you can only learn through experiences, like in terms of being able to adjust, for example, to different, or being able to give solutions. I think it's easy to do it on TV where there's no pressure. Like at home when you're watching a game and you're like, oh, this is what should be done. But being able to do it in the heat of moment, or when you're getting whistled.
So you're talking about people that analyze the games on radio and television there, right?
Exactly. People like you.
Nice.
No, but I think no, I'm not talking about them. I think it's, I think you may have all the right pictures in your head, but I think when you step into that, it's obviously harder to. What I'm saying is, some of it for me to get better at is just through experience. And I think I'm at the right place under the right people to be able to learn from.
Yeah, and Ronnie Dyla spoke to Nick Cushing about Ronnie, and he's been very impressed with how he handles the players. No matter what the situation, there seems to be a positive message, a constructive message, and there's all different kinds of coaches. Some have the heavy hand, and others the gentle touch. Is that what you've found with Ronnie too?
Yeah, Ronnie. I mean, so far I've learned a great deal under him. I think he's an incredibly amazing coach. I think some of the stuff that is, I think he's really in tune with what he's trying to, convince the team to do. I think the way he looks at the game is very clear in my eyes, and I think he has a really, really good idea of how he wants this team to develop, and we're on track of trying to make that happen.
The staff itself is it's an interesting combination of people who, for the most part, have not worked together before. Rob Vertugin very well, the keeper coach, but outside of that, with Nick and Ronnie. So how did you, as a group, come together and coordinate yourselves? Because Ronnie Dyla, when you're the head coach, you need loyalty beneath you. You need trust beneath you. So how has that been developed?
That's a quick. I think I'll tell you a quick story that tells you everything you need to know about him in terms of that. I think he's so confident in what he, on himself, and what he's trying to do, that he is almost like, just get me the best people to work with. So where most coaches will say, oh no, I want to bring in my 4 or 5 people that I've been working with, stuff right. You talk about like trust or whatever. I think he wants to work with the best crew he can work with, and within that, he's trying to help everybody develop as much as possible, to keep everybody's drive and keep everybody's eager to get better, including himself.
So this period of time where players have been unable until recently for New York City FC get to the training facility. Now you're in that individual training mode. Do you have any role in that yourself? I mean, are you at the facility? I mean, how exactly is that being managed by the staff?
So there's a whole protocol that MLS is obviously, put out for all the clubs to use in terms of how to get to the field and where they park. And there's like, the stuff is really, super detailed to the T that the players have to abide by, or like they have, the way to get to the training. Right now we can only have 4 players per field. So we do quadrants, and every player works in their quadrant. We have, strength conditioning coach and two coaches from the coaching staff. But yeah, I've been heavily involved in that. We've just had 2 days so far, and it's been very good. We try to make it as fun, yet try to get the most we can get out of it. Coaches cannot serve the balls. We have to be really creative of the way we want to set up the drills ahead of time, so they can get the most out of it. I think the way we want to progress this thing is make it more positional base for all the players. So it takes a lot of thought. That's the call that I just kind of got off of. That's why I wasn't sure I was going to be able. I was going to delay this or not. But it took us, a couple hours to try to line it up for the next couple of days to make it, as I said, more positional based, so they can get the most. We can get them to get out of it before we go into smaller groups like
right.
6 to be able to work together.
What's an example of positionally based? So it's a central defender. They're by themselves in a quadrant with one ball. And what kinds of things would you set up to make it positional for them?
So some of the stuff, so the first part of it, we, there's obviously activation, and we try to go into more like network, like where like there's some passing and receiving against the net, and we'll get everybody involved in it just to kind of get some type of like, fun, feel like we're working within a team, and then we kind of move on to this stuff we do all together. And then I guess the stuff that's more positional will be the third piece of it, which is more like circuit work. So I think like I don't know if you're saying a center back. So for a center back, for example, maybe the first part is against the border, against the net, and you go side to side for some passing. And then maybe, you know, against the net, you do a couple of clearances into a stepping in. Let's think you're stepping in with the ball from the back four, and you have to find a 6, 8, or a 10, for example. Right. And then you kind of make that a circuit where it's more with the ball, but there's also some disguise running that's needed also.
Some creative coaching going on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know, and the players need to be creative as well, right? They have to really come up with some things themselves, which I'm sure they have over this course of time before they got to the facility, right?
Well, they've been on a program, so the players have been, you know, we've been in touch. I mean, the whole time. I think there's a lot of work that goes on, even when we are, you know, remotely working this way. I think the players have been working 5, sometimes 6 days a week, and they have, you know, a run or so 3 times a week. They have different types of classes, try to make the classes fun. We have some yoga, we have some, you know, kickboxing, trying to kind of give it some fun energy, but they've been working all along.
I heard there was a trivia contest. Are you allowed to disclose who won that? Do you remember?
I'm trying to think. Can't remember who won it.
Okay, well, that's
whoever won it, I think got a free meal delivered to their house. So that I can tell you that.
That's perfect. Yeah. That's perfect. Mehdi Ballouchy, first team assistant, New York City FC. Off on another topic, and it's something that you've been involved with for 3 years now. It's called Kickstart Joy. I'm wondering if you can describe to everyone exactly what that is, and then what role you've played in it.
Yeah. So thanks for bringing that up. So this was the last year of me playing. It was here at New York City FC. There was a lot going on in Syria at the time. There was a bunch of there was plenty of refugees washing over, you know, the coast of Africa, Europe, and my initial thought was, yeah, I wanted to volunteer and help, and it kind of snowballed into starting an organization and going out there to the refugee camps and bringing soccer camps to the little kids there.
Wow!
As it evolved, obviously there's many layers to it, but.
And Mehdi, if I could interrupt, just to be specific, 5.6 million Syrians had fled during the Civil War, so you were very close to the border. 58% children, you know, looking for some structure in their lives. So this is an important mission. Exactly.
So I think the kids piece was really kind of hit home for me, because I felt like, well, what do we have here that they don't have there? And obviously there's a lot, but I felt like bringing soccer, something that I'm familiar with, comes natural to me. I could go out there and I know that, you know, soccer is the most popular sport in Syria, for example. And looking at these refugee camps, half of it, or almost half of it, was kids. So, you know, as many programs as the UN or, you know, all these different organizations try to have, there's still a huge need of different, you know, of this type of stuff. So we thought we'd put a group together, put a camp together, and try to, you know, hop around in different refugee camps and bring the game, you know, over a few days. We did that in two different refugee camps in Jordan. So Jordan is obviously the country bordering Syria, and there's a lot. That's the first place that, you know, half of the country could get to easily, right? So they'll drive or walk up to the border and then wait for the right moments when the government provides help for them to get them to these different refugee camps. I think. And
Mehdi, how did you decide on that area? Is it something that you'd seen in the news and it struck you that way, or was it some other relationship?
Well, in the news, I mean, it was every day, right? Like I think when at the height of it, it was all, you know, it was in the news all the time. But the idea, hopefully, as we move forward, is to be able to bring this to different refugee camps around the world. I think where we are now, I think maybe 3 years ago, looking at that same camp, they didn't have like an organized structure for the kids to come in and play. So now they have a boys and girls team. They have all kind of different ages. They have a beautiful soccer field. And I'm not saying we you know, made any of that. We don't want to take credit for any of that, but I think what we could take credit for is bringing the attention to it. One, and I think some of it, right? Like some of the attention. I think looking at this other place called Azraq refugee camp, I think we played a bigger role there, where we actually connected a few different organizations to be able to put out a field and a program and fund it as well for the next couple of years. So that was one of the coolest things that we were able to influence. I think as we move forward, hopefully we can do more of that.
So I assume this is the off season you go over, and you're and you're going once a year. Is that the way it works out?
Yeah, so we go once a year, and during the off season, as you said, and I've opened it up, as you guys may have seen, to anyone who wants to join, anyone who wants to bring. It kind of worked out organically that, a lot of the players in the MLS want to be involved. I've gotten plenty of emails from different players, even from some of the guys that work for the Players Association, that players want to be involved, and even the league's been great in helping out in a lot of different ways. So it's been really a positive thing to be involved in.
My gosh, and when you go back, I'm sure the kids, they know you recognize them, they recognize you, and that must be awesome.
Yeah, it's such a great feeling to be involved in it. I think it's for me personally, it's like it's almost a reset to reality. Like a breath of fresh air to see, oh wow, kind of being grateful for what we have, and trying to give some of that back, where we can.
The thing that struck me too about the story that I read concerning it was how uplifting the children were. I mean, how seemingly happy they were, not just to see you, but just in their everyday lives.
It's incredible. Honestly, I think you look at them and you're thinking, oh, they're gonna be really sad, or that's what struck me as well. I think my first trip there, I think kids, that's what I learned. Like, kids are kids no matter where they are. Like what
Right.
situation they're like, they're oblivious, almost oblivious to kind of what's going on. I think as long as they are with other kids and they're playing anywhere out there in the world.
Right.
Fun,
Yeah. All right, Mehdi. Well, as we close, I'm curious, this weekend was supposed to be the first Hudson River Derby. I know there's been other matches missed. Not sure if you're going to Orlando. We all know about those discussions and how that might work out. But do you take a moment to just think about, oh man, we're missing that Red Bulls match this weekend? Or anybody? Is it talked about at all?
No, but we're looking for, I'm sure it'll happen this year. That's what I'm hoping for. Hopefully, at least a couple of times. So, for all of us, I think talking about what could happen today is at this point, I'm looking forward to the real thing. And I think it will happen this year. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, Orlando's a wonderful spot in the middle of July. It's, low 70s, no humidity. I'm sure you guys will have a great time down there. But
you can keep hinting at Orlando all you want. I'll tell you the one thing. I have no idea if it's happening or not. It's actually between the players and the league. So the clubs are, they know the least. So it's still in negotiations, as you may have seen, and we'll see.
Yeah,
but whether it happens there or somewhere else, I think it will happen. So that's my hope.
Well, the NWSL announced, we're recording this on a Wednesday, they're going to have their little mini tournament in Utah. So It looks like that's happening.
That's awesome.
In June. So Mehdi Ballouchy, first team assistant coach, New York City FC. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. And good luck whenever you get started. I'm sure it'll happen at some point.
Thanks, Glenn. Appreciate you having me.